Okay, welcome everybody. And it's a little chilly in New York, right? These 3 days have been already official winter, I guess. So we're going to warm up a little bit with a little chassidus. And in chapter 7, I just want to go over before we're going to move into chapter 8. I'll share the screen and we're going to go over chapter 7. Not chapter, I'm sorry, paragraph 7. We are still in chapter 1. So, by the way, anybody has any difficulties with accessing the files on the drive, please let me know, because I try to keep things as organized as possible. And if you are experiencing difficulty, let me know as soon as you can. So these are the summaries, okay? And I usually highlight them so I'm going like in a long text, and as we're going to add more and more summaries, sometimes it might be very difficult for you to, keep up with, is a paragraph, 7, is a paragraph 8. So just very easy. There's a tab on the left when you open the document, and, you could just scroll down and let's say you want summary on paragraph 7, you could just press it and it pops up. Let's say you want to have 6, it will change to summary paragraph 6. So that's, Baruch Hashem, one advantage. And usually the paragraph that we are working with will be highlighted in some color, so you right away will know that you are there. Okay, anyway, so in this paragraph, right, we're finally already looking into that the Mitzvah Rebbe is explaining to us the true difference between hispaalus elokus and not hispaalus elokus. Why? Because truly we see that even hispaalus basar, right? When our actual flesh, the animal soul gets aroused, it's also very, very felt, because animal soul is about yesh. So the experience, it's also very, very felt, right? So then what is that? We see that if we analyze the keli, right? What's the keli? The vessel through which that experience comes into a tangible experience, right? Now, I know a lot of people get confused. What is the keli? The keli is literally a vessel. For example, if I'm thinking, that means my vessel right now is my brain. Okay. If I'm feeling, then my vessel right now is my heart. If I'm moving, the vessel right now is my body. Okay. So through which that particular light, that particular expression is coming out into. Let's say if I am drawing something, so the vessel, the medium through which I'm channeling my energy is my painting. If I'm composing a music, through which I'm channeling that energy will be the music, right? So that's understood. What do we mean by the word kli? It's very essential, right? So now, what we see that the kli in noga is in a way disattached from the light. Okay, and this is interesting. It's very valuable to take time to try to understand it, is because when we become a vessel into godliness, right? We merge with godliness at that moment, okay? And the expression that that revelation has is not detached from the light, okay? Meaning, I'm going to experience what I'm going to experience when I have a godly experience, whether it's expressed in a thought, in a feeling, or in a movement, okay? On one hand, it will be felt because it's going through my consciousness, right? The only way it could be unfelt if it's going to be on my subconscious awareness, which means nothing to me because I operate through my consciousness, through my thoughts, through my feelings, and through my body. So if my revelation is coming through my body, okay, it's going to be felt, but once it passes, once the light contracts, that's just what it is, okay? Now, it's not like that when the expression to begin with, coming through the noga, right? Let's say my goal is to experience pleasure. And therefore, I do all kinds of things to experience it, right? And therefore, I'm more focused on the experiencing pleasure versus what am I actually experiencing it with or with whom, right? So the awareness shifts drastically into the experience itself versus who are we interacting with and why we're having this experience to begin with, okay? And that's why in Noga, we see that separation, that the Keli is more felt versus the light. Okay, and let's not forget why the Rebbe wrote this Kuntres in the first place, right? Because of this division between the Hasidim, right, where the Sturchella, Rabbi Aaron Sturchella, announced himself to be the continuation of the Chassidus Chabad, the Rebbe, after the Alter Rebbe's passing. And, you know, it was actually the Mittel Rebbe, the one, right? So in that whole debate, back and forth, the Chassidim were torn. They didn't understand who is a true Rebbe. Some Chassidim were very loyal to the Mittel Rebbe, and some Chassidim felt very, very strong attraction to Rabbi Aaron Sturchella because Rabbi Aaron Sturchella served Hashem with great passion and emotion. It was very similar to the Alter Rebbe, where the Mittel Rebbe, the entire fire was on the inside. On the outside, he showed zero signs, where he was just completely still. Now, because of that division, where the Hasidim mistakenly understood that a true ways of serving of Hashem is when I am totally expressive on the outside with this whole pulchana de liba, with this whole intense outward expression. The Rebbe took his time to write this Kuntres to guide Hasidim into differentiate what is the true hispaalus and what is not a true hispaalus. What's hispaalus you should stay away with, okay? And this is where we actually see that a lot in this Kuntres coming up is where am I? How am I differentiating? Okay, so now, so this is we're going to be here, right? This is arousal from awaken, both as felt and unfelt. How can something be felt and unfelt at the same time, right? When we're talking about from the holy perspective. But it is felt because it reveals the soul's own light and vitality in a tangible way. Yet it is unfelt, right? Because of the sense of self-awareness. Okay, so when a person is feeling this godly light coming through them, right? The oneg of the soul, they're obviously feeling it because otherwise they would be just, you know, doing whatever else they're doing. If they wouldn't feel it, that would be subconscious. But because they're consciously experiencing it, they are in that moment. They're not self-aware of that, right? And he brings a very interesting analogy. He says, hey, look at this. When somebody walks over to you and says, guys, you know, you won, I don't know, $3 million, right? And that's exactly what you needed to buy a new house. Your excitement is going to be so intense. Obviously, you're going to be excited because, yeah, who doesn't want $3 million? Special, that's exactly how much you needed. But you're going to experience the joy. At the same time, you're even going to stand up, maybe clap or whatever else people do when they hear such basur tova, but you're not going to be conscious about it. What are you not going to be conscious about it? Well, we are conscious. It's felt, so obviously we're conscious about it. But what is self-conscious? Self-conscious is like, oh my gosh, who is looking at me? Oh my gosh, do I really look happy? Or I should clap even louder so everybody else is going to think that I'm very happy about it. Or, okay, I should be clapping my hands right now. We don't think about it, right? When we're in the moment of experiencing that joy, yeah, we don't think about what people think about us. It's like we are not self-aware. We are not self-conscious about it. Okay, we're experiencing the joy and we're in the moment of that experience. Okay, for example, you meet your child after yeshiva after 2 years or after a year. You're excited about it, right? You're even going to hug your child in the middle of very, very busy airport, right? You're not going to be thinking, oh my gosh, somebody's looking at me, and or, I'm hugging this, this, I don't know, 22-year-old. Well, I'm also shomer negia. What people are going to think about me? Yeah, you don't go through all this load. And if you are, it's a problem. Why? Because there is something blocking you. There is this detachment between the light and the keli that you experience. If you have brain space to think about these things during these events, there is this detachment between the light that's coming and your keli. Okay, and that it needs work. Yeah, that means the person is not attached to the essence. If they could think about these type of things during their tangible and felt joy experiences. Okay, so that's that. Now, even if we are at that moment, okay, in the experience of our um, animal soul, it is still within the realms of Kedusha. Okay, so we should not worry about it. Because although it's going to be very, very felt, blah, 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 nevertheless, it still has that aspect of bitul, a connection to the essence, versus when it's dibuk chitzoni. Okay, that's we called. This is a non-advisable forms of oneg, where the main goal is just the oneg itself, and a person is exceptionally self-conscious about it, right? So it's not about connection anymore. It's more about ego and fulfilling lust type of desires. Okay, now we went through this, levels of nigun. I don't think we really need to get caught into it because we're going to explain and go more into details later on. And let's not just complicate it now. Nature of true oneg. Oneg is felt because it reveals the soul's light, yet not self-consciously felt because it's above intellect and self-awareness. It arises naturally, not through intentional effort or emotional manipulation. Okay, it's like a spontaneous joy or anger, right, that bursts from soul's core, deeply felt but not consciously produced. Okay, now we also mentioned all in the end, he just throws a detail there that evil originates from das, right? Because it's very simple. It's hadas. That's what Adam and Chava ate from, right? And specifically chesed, which merges, chesed and gvura, right? But specifically from the gvura within the das stems the feeling of self-conscious excitement, right? The aspect of evil and separation. That's it. Now, any questions on that so far? No? We all good? Okay, great. So we're gonna move into the Hebrew. We're gonna go through the new paragraph, which is paragraph 8. Okay, and it's really, really beautiful paragraph. So I'm sure you'll enjoy that. Now we're gonna ask the ultimate question. What are we gonna ask? The hispaalus amitis hu machmas ha-oneg hu lemala min ha-chochmah. אם כן, למה מוכרח להיות התחלה על ידי ha-chochmah והיסבonenus דווקא כידוע? So it's a very, very legit question. And I think all of us should be asking this question. So if we just said in the 7th paragraph, right, however, it is seemingly not understood that the true arousal, hispaalus amitis, comes from oneg, which is above chochmah, right? That's why when it becomes conscious, it's already devious from the essence. Then why must it begin necessarily come through chochmah and hisbonenus? As is no, doesn't make sense. If I'm channeling the oneg of my soul through this hispaalus, why in the world I need to mix in my conscious thought process? It just sounds to be contradictory with what we just discussed before, right? Doesn't make sense. Do we all agree? Yeah, thumbs up. It's a legit question. And if we look deeper, this question is actually what differentiates Chabad Hasidus and all other types of Hasidus. Okay? Because specifically through answering this question, we're going to answer all the questions why Chabad is called Chabad and why the avodah in Chabad involves extensively the whole process of hisbonenus. Why can I just draw? Why can I just play music? Why can I just connect to the tzaddik, to my emotional attributes? Why can I just come to a tish? Why can I just, I don't know, get $1 from the Rebbe and leave me alone? I don't need to go through this painful process of hisbonenus. Like, why I need to do all this? Like, why Chabad? Why we cannot just connect and pass through this seemingly deviative power of our intellect? Yeah, like, why brain? Okay, and this is a very, very fundamental question that people ask, and it's a legit question. And I think take your time to really understand it, because by answering this question, you're truly answering the question of your nefesh Bahamas, right? Because she's the one who's going to be exerting her mind in this. Okay, so we need to have good answers. Let's go. So, ayin hu sheyesh ha-chochmah atzma beis bechinas Pnimiyus, ha-chochmah chitzoniyus ha-chochmah. Okay, so now, amazing. We're going now into Chassidus that we should understand. The explanation is that within ha-chochmah itself, there are two aspects: an inner dimension and an outer dimension. Okay. So the ha-chochmah itself has two levels: internal ha-chochmah and external ha-chochmah. And just to shatter anybody else's perception, if I may, every single sphere has that what goes on the inside, and then the way it's being expressed externally. Okay, so ha-chochmah is no different. Ha-chochmah has Pnimiyus ha-chochmah and chitzoniyus ha-chochmah. Ubiur hadvarim yuven afilu b'haskalas chochmah enoshis. And now this may answer the Sarah's question in the beginning before we started the recording. This may be understood even in a human intellect. We're not talking about the Kedusha and Ma'amarim and, mystical types of teaching. Even in a human intellect, for example. For example, when one studies science of astronomy, in order to understand the true structure of the heavenly spheres, that it is the form, what it is, and the form, etc., etc. So we're talking about a chochmah. Why do we bring astronomy, by the way? A lot of times we hear that they bring, an example of chochmah astronomy. We also had that in Shara Yichud, right? They just all of a sudden, brings a chochmah of astronomy. Why astronomy? Why it's not building? Why it's not medicine? Simply because astronomy at that time was completely removed from any practical application. Okay, me sitting and studying about the moon, we're talking about 200 years ago, really meant a purely intellectual pursuit. Like, nobody would even think that somebody ever would fly to the moon. Like, now, obviously, with all the new research, me studying about astronomy may have practical application. I might just one day create, some kind of device and fly there, right? Like Elon Musk is trying to fly, and visit Mars, right? So him studying about Mars is not purely intellectual. It actually has practical applications. So that's why a lot of times you'll see in Chassidus, when they want to mention something about purely intellectual pursuit, they will bring this pursuit of astronomy, okay? So let's say somebody is sitting there and purely just studies all kinds of things about the sun and about the moon and about different planets, the proximity of, who is near them and all that stuff. Okay, what they made out of, right? And one person might ask, who cares? Like, it's not going to put food on your table. You're going to be sitting thinking about these, high concepts, right? So now let's say somebody is pursuing that. Okay, now such comprehension necessarily comes through deep, concentration at first, right? A person really has to open the text, read the information, or whichever ways they study, okay, and really go deeper into the concept. Okay, and without great effort and depth, he will never grasp the true nature of the matter, and which is true. Like lo yagati umatzati al tamid. It goes even about something, so impractical, right? Even if you're not gonna exert yourself and put on your effort, you'll never be able to understand anything. So now, what is this deep concentration? It gathers and unites all the powers of his intellect to bind itself to the concept which he studies. Right? That's what it allows. This concentration, meaning I'm not thinking about anything else. My soup, my class, whatever else I might be thinking, I should be fully focused into studying this. Otherwise, I will not understand anything, right? That's why when you go to the libraries, what do you see there? Quiet. You see here hundreds and hundreds of people. They even have, like in this central library in Manhattan, they even have this little cabins that you could go and literally lock yourself in this, like, I don't know, 4x4 cubicle. So there's no distractions, so you could focus on your studies. And there's nothing on the wall there. It's literally bare white walls. Why do people do that? Why do students do that? Is simply because they need to be completely removed from the world so they could study that particular thing that they want to know. Okay? ונמצא כשנעשה בחינס ביטול כוח השכל לגבי המושכל, שזהו בחינס ayin the-chochmah, right? So now, and therefore the power of the intellect becomes completely nullified relative to the idea he wants to grasp. Because if I want to know something, I have to remove everything what I know up until now about that subject, right? And I have to completely immerse myself into the study so I could go ahead and progress. Otherwise, if I'm going to be full of myself, that I know everything, there's no point of me to study, because all what I'm going to do is agree or just disagree. If no learning can take place if there's no battel. Okay, relative to the idea grasp, this is the aspect of ayin of ha-chochmah. So if you want to understand the ayin of ha-chochmah, is when I concentrate my thought, concentrate my mind, trying to understand the depth of the concept, that's, I'm using the koach of ayin of my chochmah. And this is the koach of the bitul, because, as we learned in Shar Yichud's class, a depth, what is higher than chochmah? Higher than chochmah, although chochmah is a very, very lofty level, right? This is the original paradigm that we are revealed to our brain. But there is something which is called koach hamaskil, right? It's the power to conceptualize, because chochmah, it's already a concrete concept, right? Now, what's higher than chochmah is the power to conceptualize any concept. So when I'm coming from the yesh perspective, okay, and I want to find the depth, so I can integrate it, right? So that intention to go deeper into the concept, that's called ayin of chochmah. Now, let's not get sidetracked. We are still explaining why we need hisbonenus to tap into our awaken, since awaken is lemala mina seichel. Why we need seichel to begin with? Let's not forget that original question. And let's seek the answer here. But achar kach al yidei zeh hu maskilan begilui. Only afterwards, through what? Through this intense effort, he comprehends it is in a revealed way. Then it becomes, aha, oh, that's what it means. Now, if I don't exert my mind, if I don't become obsessed about understanding something, I will never have an aha moment. What my aha moment is coming from? Aha moment is coming from the Yigia. It's from my breaking my mind, trying to understand it. And when I have that revelation, right, this flash of chochmah where I'm like, wow, this is totally makes sense now. Okay. That, that's what actually becomes revealed to me. That's why I say, aha, so now I understand. Meaning that understanding is a revelation. So after the ayin became revealed to me in a way, right? Then it becoming more yesh. How is it? So afterwards, through this yigia, he comprehends in the revelation. That is, he brings the true idea into form, okay, with defined letters and images in his mental vessel, meaning in his brain. Okay, this is the aspect of yesh within the chochmah, right? Now it's becoming concrete. There's something that I could even put into formula. I could communicate it to another person. Right? Before it was just all in my brain. Now it has an expression, whether it's in the music, whether it's in a sefer, whether it's on a canvas. Right? So now that emotion, that insight, and that's exactly what chochmah is about, is the insight. When I deepen into it, I could bring down something concrete. And that becomes the yesh of chochmah. Now, obviously, the ayin of chochmah is the Pnimiyus of chochmah, and yesh of chochmah is the chitzoniyus of chochmah. Now, ולהיש שפנימיוס ha-chochmah הוא פנימיוס awaken, כידוע בשם Rabbi Chaim Vital. Now, and since there is an inner aspect, the Rabbi Chaim Vital revealed that there is a yichud, right? What is a yichud? Yichud is the unity. It's a shortcut, okay? Since the inner aspect of chochmah is the inner aspect of awaken, wow, look at that. Now, the awaken, right, is enclosed itself in chochmah, right? As is known from Rabbi Chaim Vital. What does this mean? היינו שכוח הביטול בנפש להיות מופשט לגמרי ממהוסה להיכלל במקוירה, עם כוח הגילוי להיות נמשך בבחינת גילוי אור, והספשטוס בבחינת ירידה למטה, מאוד מטה הוא אחד ממש. So now look at this. There's two powers, right? Meaning that the power of bitul in the soul to be totally abstracted from its own being and to become included within its source, right? That's going upwards, right? That knua is desire to know what this matter is about. And let's not forget, this happens even in part of subjects like astronomy, mathematics, whatever else, right? This is just the structure of our human brain. To be totally abstracted, right? And become included within its source. And the power of revelation to extend downwards and manifest light are essentially one and the same. Meaning koach to go up and koach to bring it down. It's the same koach. Okay? And if so, what happens? And even more so, not only there is one power, but it's one depends on the other. Okay? Right? Yet this concept cannot be truly grasped how it is so. Right? Meaning we just know that these two powers not only interrelated, but actually one is dependent on the other. Okay, let me explain it to you. What does this mean? For example, somebody wants to have a brain surgery, right? Who are you going to go to? You definitely want to have an expert. Why you want to have an expert? Why you want to have a scholar? All what you need to do is just to cut. What's the big deal about it? No, you want to have an expert. Why you want to have an expert? Because experts studied. So who cares about study? We need somebody with practical application. Well, here what he's telling me, he's the practical application, the sophistication that's needed to do a brain surgery, let's say, right? Or to build a bridge, or to build a building that will not collapse tomorrow, right? The sophistication meaning the practical application, the sophistication of the practical applications, and to know what to do, how to do, when to do, actually comes from the ability to go deep into the concept. Okay, the deeper I'm capable of going into the concept, the more outwards I'm going to be able to bring it out. And that's why we know by the Rebbeim something phenomenal. You might think that they are just wholly exalted and remote and removed from the world. But no, they are the most practical people. Okay, we know this famous story from Rebbe Rashab and the Frierdiker Rebbe that were visiting, I believe it was somewhere in Austria. And there was this, girl that was supposed to get married. The parents couldn't afford. It was a whole story with many, many details. And I don't want to, mislead you into, but the point of the story is that the Rebbe Rashab sent the Frierdiker Rebbe into a store to buy things for this kala with such great detail and explicitity, where the Frierdiker Rebbe went, and he was shocked, like, how does the Rebbe knows about these things, right? The practical things that the kala needs, so she, for her dowry, that she could get married, was amazing, because that's what a true bitul is. A true bitul is not completely remove and fly out of the world. The true bitul is that you really become very practical and pragmatic. So this duality, right? It's something that, exists in the real world, right? Who is the best brain surgeon who actually had very high grades when he was learning in college, right? Who is the best Rav, right? Who knows how to apply this, extensive, complicated halachas. You're not going to go to a person who didn't know how to learn. No, you're not going to go to a, because you need to have extra depth if you want to bring out a very practical application to things, right? That's just how it works. So he says over here exactly how it works. We're not going to go into it. We don't know exactly how it works, but Ian bekivse admur shlita, the mamar kiyim korchu, right? It says that's already Rabbi Hillel refers us. This is the writing of the Rebbe, of the Vital Rebbe, right? And which is, ki yimkor and chulu. If you want to understand this whole concept as to why the omek is dependent on the orech, right, on the length, and we, Baruch Hashem spends a very, very long time. If you want to go really into, it's the first chapter of Shari Yipud of the Vital Rebbe. The left beer explains it beautifully, and that's just what it is. The length, the application, is really rooted in the depth of understanding. The deeper you understand something, the more further applications you could do. Okay? And therefore, v'lachein ha'amaka shu b'bchinas ha'ala, ha'alas mayin nukvin b'bchinas Pnimiyus ha-chochmah shebenefesh atzma ma'orer oisel lava lidei hamshocha alidei ha'alazos. And therefore, the deep meditation, right, the deep concentration, right, is the elevation of mayin nukvin, right? We're not going to go into what mayin nukvin is, right, which means the arousal flow below, okay, to the level of the Pnimiyus ha-chochmah, okay, within the soul itself, awakening it to bring forth, drawing down through that elevation, right? There's a lot of fancy word, but it's very simple, right? The power to go up, this is the power to determine how it's going to come down. Let's put numbers. Let's say I went up on the level of 4. I could bring it down on the level of 4, meaning that's what it means, ha-b'hatalia, meaning one is dependent on the other. It's impossible for me to go deep on the level of 1 and be able to bring application on the level of 10. Now, it doesn't happen. That by nature, how Hashem designed this world, it's in proportion to your effort. The ability to bring down is based on your ability to go deep. Therefore, now again, bringing you back to right here, right now, we're still trying to understand why we need to use our brain in order to access the essence of our soul. Can we just like put our head somewhere and just access it heart to heart? Well, apparently no, if we really want to be accurate, right? And we want to bring down a true light. Why is it? Now, we understood now, up until now, that there's two aspects in chochmah, Pnimiyus and chitzoniyus. And chitzoniyus depends on the Pnimiyus, so far. ולכן הוא ממשיך גם בפנימיוס ha-oneg, לבוא לידי המשכה במוח ליושם כוח אחד ממש כנ"ל ודל. So now, accordingly, it is also drawn down the Pnimiyus of the oneg, inner delight, into the intellect through this deep study, through this a complete nullification to the idea that we're trying to perceive. Okay? We automatically draw down the oneg of our soul. You understand? Meaning we use chochmah only as means by which we are accessing our awaken. Okay, for they are truly one and the same power. Okay, as explained above, and this is sufficient for understanding. Okay, now because there's yichud, which means Pnimiyus Abba, Pnimiyus Atik, from Rabbi Chaim Vital, which means the Pnimiyus of the chochmah, which is Abba in Lashon HaKabbalah, is the Pnimiyus Atik, which is oneg, right? There is this a shortcut. So what we're trying to do when we do our hisbonenus is not to become intellectual. On the contrary, by all means, not intellectual, but we use our intellect to access something which is higher than the intellect. Okay, that's why we need the power of our intellect to be engaged, because chochmah is the first revelation of our consciousness. We cannot surpass our consciousness if we don't engage it. Okay. Okay, והנה ידוע גם בעניין השכלת חכמה אנושית, שלא יכול לבוא על אמיתת עניינים, אלא כאשר תהיה יגיעוסי אך ורק לכוונת השגת אמיתית לבד. Okay, בלבד, ולא בשביל להרגיש את עצמי בזה. And here we answering our true question. Okay, our true question, what does this mean to be self-conscious? Okay. I'm sorry, just somebody is like trying to call me while I'm having the class. Okay, what does this mean? It's also known regarding the human understanding that one cannot reach the true essence of the matter unless his effort is directed solely toward comprehending its truth and not towards self-feeling or self-promotion through it. Okay. So here it is. What differentiates between a true hispaalus versus not a true hispaalus? Okay, what's the difference? Very simple. What was the kavanah? You know, this famous saying, you know, nichnas b'shalom yotza b'shalom, right? When you walk into the field of hisbonenus, any spiritual work for that matter, right? When we walk in through that, what do? Like, how are we managing this? When we walk in with an intention to do what? If I walk in to comprehend its truth, that's why I'm engaging in that thing, in that entity. And that's, he says it's regarding human understanding, meaning we're really not touching godliness here. We're really touching simple human intellect. Well, it's not so simple, right? But it's simply the human intellect, right? So if I'm intending, my intention, my kavanah is to comprehend its truth, only then the truth will be revealed to me. Okay, however, if my kavanah is to feel myself that I'm worthy of something, or self-promotion, so then the truth will be hidden from me. And then I would need to compensate it through something more external. Understand? And be conscious of it. Let's say as an intention that through this study will be elevated above all other scholars. He will never reach the truth. Now, this is the premise that, is being shared in the Torah. What does this mean? Let's say a person studies, I don't know, something, and I want to be the best doctor out there. And that's why I study medicine. I will never be the best doctor out there. Why? Simply because I don't have an intention to know medicine. My intention is to become a best doctor. My intention is not to know medicine. See the difference? I want to be a big shot. I don't know, a big rav, the best shaliach, and all that type of motives, right, will misguide me because my true kavanah is not connecting with Hashem, is something else. My study of Torah is not connecting my mind with the mind of Hashem. I want to do something else. Oh, I learned that in order for me to be a respectable person, I have to learn a lot and, earn other people's respect. And therefore, I have to do X, Y, and Z. Okay? But the truth I will not know. I'll know information. Okay? My study will become purely intellectual pursuit. It will not connect me to the awaken of my soul because I'm not tapping on that door. Awaken of my soul is the true self. That true self is not going to open the door if I'm not knocking on that door. I'm knocking on the door of self-promotion. Therefore, the self-promotion is going to open up. And I'm going to learn a lot of different things, a lot of information. But I will not feel the transformation because that was never my kavanah. Okay? Now, okay? Okay? Now, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped the line. Therefore, our sages say, who is the wise man? The one who learns from every person. Okay, that's very interesting. What do you mean the one who learns from every person? Again, look at the keyword chacham, right? Right? This is because the true intention is not self-exaltation, but only to grasp the truth itself. Okay, if this is the kavanah, right? So therefore, I could learn it from anybody. No, excuse me, I'm only learning from big rabbanim. It doesn't work like that. Because if I want to understand the truth, even a guy walking down the street will say something and all of a sudden it will make sense. Yeah, because the attitude is to know the truth, whatever else I'm learning, and who cares who's going to tell me the truth? And we see, big chachamim, they would walk around, and they'll ask a child, why are you asking a child? Who is the child? He's not a big rabbi. It doesn't have to be a big rabbi. If he carries the truth, I'll learn from him. Why not? Because the purpose of the kavanah is to know the truth. Okay, so then, therefore, the person who has this attitude is capable of actually tapping into the awaken of the soul and have true hispaalus, because the whole goal is not fame. The whole goal is to know how to draw, for example, right? So, okay, it's not going to be Leonardo da Vinci who is going to be teaching me. Whoever knows whatever information I will possess, that's good enough for me, because all what I want is I want to know how to express myself through painting. You see the difference? So now that where the doors will open for me to know the truth of that matter, whatever that may be, medicine, engineering, Torah study. right? Because my goal, my intention is I want to know the truth of that matter. ולכן אין אצלו נפקא מינה בין שיוסי גוטה על ידי שכל עצמי, על ידי שכל דלוסי, ולכן הוא מקבל האמת ממי שאומרי. Right? Consecutively, right? It makes no difference to him whether he attains the truth through his own intellect or through another's. And therefore he accepts truth from whoever speaks it. Okay? מה שאין כן כשכוונתו לרוממוס עצמי, okay, ולא יודע על האמת לזולוסי, where in his intention is self, when you want to lisroimem is when you want to, rise above, okay? He will not admit the truth when it comes from another person because he was not the one who got it, right? So that's where there's arrogance there. But atam lekol hanal. So now, what is the reason behind these two interesting entities, right? Two people, two types of people. What is it? Pnimiyus ha-chochmah lahaskil al davar. Right? The reason for all this is that the Pnimiyus of chochmah, right, the inner faculty of chochmah, okay, through which one grasps a matter, is united with the very essence of the soul aspect of ayin. Okay, hu miyuchat ba'atzmius hanefesh b'bchinas ayin kanal. Okay, so when he is really intentionally taps into ayin, right, something that he doesn't have at the moment, right? He's searching for something. So his bitul opens up. Once he has a bitul, it's a bitul towards whoever speaks it. He just wants to know what it is, right? So therefore, he can access it only when he is in a state of total bitul, right? Therefore, he can access it only when he's in a state of total bitul towards the subject he seeks to understand. Okay. So I see Shayna has a question. Is it an urgent question for specifically what we're learning, Shayna?
It's a good question you're asking me. I don't know how urgent it is, but it's sort of like, I wish I could save it for the end, but I'm having trouble absorbing because of this question.
Sure.
So I feel like I'm blocked from receiving this, and for sure everything makes sense. But I'm noticing, isn't there, I feel like all these people, like you mentioned, a famous painter, and then maybe the Talmud Chacham, and isn't it because in some way we do want to impress Hashem and earn Hashem's love? Not that we need to, Hashem loves us, but I feel like there's a version of me that is ambitious for a good reason, because I want to be the best at the gifts, the best Shayna that the gifts Hashem gave me. So I'm not that I'm saying it's about me, but how, I guess that's something that I'm thinking about, and I'm sure that there's still bittul in that, and there's room for that, but there's a version of me that wants to do what I do very well, and not to say I'm better than anyone or an expert, or they should trust, only me and not a child, but just this sort of sense that it's not arrogance sometimes. It's sometimes also maybe just conditional love, but wanting that conditional love too in a mature relationship. I'm doing this for you. I'm trying. I'm making effort. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, it's more a desire to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Could it be that it's streaming from that? A desire to be seen, that's not a desire to become a big shot. It's actually very different. A desire to be seen comes more or less because there is a belief that we need to earn respect, we need to earn love. That's a different discussion. But why? Because truly with Hashem loves us the way we are.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, it's a very uncomfortable truth to accept, because we've been grown up that we need to deserve love. We need to deserve respect type of things, right? We need to do something in order to get that back, right? So, but that's pertaining to chinuch and how society raises up. And what we end up doing, we take that that pattern, okay, and we apply it to Hashem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is a very normal thing to do. There's nothing, wrong with that to do. However, It's a problem because we are humanizing Hashem. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
And Hashem is much greater than that. Okay, there is this, if we would only understand and perceive that we don't need to earn Hashem's love. Hashem loves us regardless. And it's very hard for us to understand how can you unconditional love somebody, because we never experience it most of the times, right? Unless we had super duper parents. Now, and therefore, like, whatever, but that totally different discussion would be going on here. What we're going on here is that I'm never interested to connect myself to Hashem to begin with. I study in order to become a big rabbi. You see the difference? So now my study of Torah is going to become an intellectual pursuit. It's not going to open up my choshim, it's not going to open up my senses into sensing elokus anymore. Because I grew my cap. My cap is I need to become the best doctor. I need to become the best rabbi out there. And I will make a lot of mistakes if I have this attitude. Okay, and we know Rabbanim will make mistakes, and we know doctors will make mistakes. Right? Why? Because they don't have a sense of bitul, because they know it everything. You understand? They study, and I'm sure we know people like that. And on some aspect, we act like that as well. You understand? In certain aspects.
The Rebbe wanted us to be the best at whatever we do. I'm also not comfortable. Just because a person wants to be the best, it doesn't mean it's coming from gaiva. It
No,
could
it's not.
mean I will do everything that I need to be the top that I can be, and I will do it. I will study everything that I need to, and obviously day by day we have to plant in the bittul, in not even day by day, minute by minute.
No, but why you want? Understand the reason is why. Why are you doing what you're doing? If why you're doing what you're doing is the need for connection, then there's no problem. You're good. But if what you're doing for what you're doing, it's truly you want to do something else. You want to be famous. And therefore you do what you do. Then the truth is not going to open to you. But if what you do is because you want to know the truth and you're doing the best efforts possible, what's wrong with that? There's nothing, that's exactly what we're talking about. There's nothing wrong with being the best. But why you want to be the best? Like Shayna said, I want to be the best version what Hashem gave me koiches, and I want to utilize it to the most, then there's nothing wrong with it. But if my intention is something totally different.
So you're saying when it comes to Hashem, I have to be very careful about from the get-go my intention. Is this because I'm relating to Hashem, receiving from Hashem, connecting to Hashem through all the channels and through all the people and through life itself? Or is it like I'm trying to objectify myself, like I am this and kind of be seen, and that's the conditional aspect. It's not a relationship, it's like it's a stuckness. It's a stuck.
Exactly, and that's why it says about four people who visited Pardes.
I'm going to go off mute because you answered my question. I'm going to go back up, but thank you so much. Please continue. Sorry to interrupt.
Sure. So what do I mean? For example, there were four people who entered in, who were able to comprehend on the level of Pardes, right? Whatever that means, we're not going to go into it, right? There were four people, right? But it was one of them that came out in totally healthy well-being, right? One of them, passed away. The other one became crazy. The other one became Epicurus. And the fourth one came in and came out. Nichnas b'shalom, yatza b'shalom. And in Chassidus, it explains a lot. Like, what does this mean? He went in with peace, came out in peace. Right? We also see, there's the Rebbe Sicha about Nadav and Avihu. Right? What was the issue? Like, there were great tzaddikim. Why the story had to happen? And there are many, many different explanations, but one of the explanations is that it's a true bitul is when I'm doing what Hashem wants me to do versus what I feel like it at the moment. Okay, take it in the right perspective. What do I mean by it? Person might have this great desire just to let go. have klois nefesh, have such a great desire to become unified with Hashem on all levels, that a person literally, when they come to this revelations of Pardes, right, the soul could just vanish, completely go out of the body, and the person passes away. That's exactly what happened with Nadav and Avihu. Now, but there is an element of ego there. Very, very refined, but there's still an element of ego. Is that what Hashem wants from you? Hashem puts in the neshama in the body, right? The whole purpose is that, why am I going on this journey, okay, to know Hashem on such a high level? What's the purpose of it? If my purpose to connect myself to Hashem's will, okay, if my purpose is to connect myself to the level, to Hashem, and that, if this is what the purpose, so then when I travel all the way, I sense that truth. The truth is revealed to me, right? The truth that I need to manifest Hashem in this Gashmistic world, because ultimately, right? Hashem doesn't want the neshamas up there. He wants his essence to be revealed down here in this world. So when I get that, I go down. That means nichnas b'shalom. My kavana is not just to gratify my desire of letting go and going who knows where, right? Going back to Hashem, melting in Hashem. That's already not nichnas b'shalom, because I'm not going in with the intention to truly fulfill your desire. I'm here to fulfill my desire. So there is an element of ego, very refined, quite justified, but it's still an element of an ego. Okay, but nichnas b'shalom, it says about Rabbi Akiva, nichnas b'shalom is a person, this Rav, after all whatever, whatever, he reached out, levels he reached out, he went up to truly fulfill, to know truly the true desire of Hashem. And when he discovered that, he came back, shalom, because that was his true intention. So we're talking about the person really needs to know what the intention is. What is his kavanah? Why are you doing this? Okay, and try as much as you could to remove himself from, some other external things. Now, the good news is that a person will not know the true subject matter if he doesn't have the bitul. It's a condition, in a way. So now, why are we all saying all this? We're saying is that when a true desire, a true kavana into hispaalus, right? Meaning, even before having any hispaalus, whenever a person has a true desire to connect to Hashem, and whatever he does for that matter, if he draws, if he plays music, there are many different expressions how we connect. Or he studies Torah, he sings the nigun, he goes to a fabrengen, he goes to a chasana, whatever that may be, right? If the intention is to connect with Hashem, and then a person experiences, a certain level of hispaalus, then it's all good. But if the intention is to feel holy, to impress somebody, and so on and so forth, that's where things become tangled, and the line is not so clear. Okay. Okay. V'lachein lo yochol lo aleha ela kasher yeh b'bchinas bitul b'tachlis. Okay, levad sherotze lahaskil bo. Therefore, he can access it only when he's in a state of bitul. Towards the subject he seeks to understand. Hainu mipnei sheyakar haskalas ha-inyan etzlo. Okay, v'lachein hu maniach et atzmoi legamrei mikol v'kol. But why is it? Why would somebody exert themselves, nullify themselves, etc., etc.? Because the value of the concept is so precious to him. Okay, so therefore, nobody goes to medical school to become the best doctor if they don't enjoy medicine, if they don't value medicine. Nobody goes to become, an artist if they don't enjoy the subject matter, right? If it's not important for them. That's why I'm not a musician. That's why I'm not whatever it is, because I don't enjoy it. I don't see importance of it. Right? Let's say, right? That's why a person doesn't go into this field, not to such extent. Maybe I might feel like, oh, that's an amazing, way of another person to self-express themselves. But I'm not gonna go and try to become the best, whatever, if I don't feel that this is something that I need to that inspires me, right? So that sense of inspiration, to begin with, right? We call it uh, that subject matter, that concept, whatever that is very precious to him. He sets aside his entire sense of self completely. You see the mechanism? The mechanism is that he's capable of doing that only because the subject matter is so precious to him. Then the bitul could come up. If a person doesn't care about Hashem, chas v'shalom, he's not going to remove himself to Hashem. If a person doesn't care about whatever subject matter it is, they're not gonna. They're not gonna have a self of bitul, a sense of bitul towards that. Okay, because there's a value in the concept, and because that precious, that's the trigger for bitul. Okay, מה שאין כן כשהיה כוונוסי הרגשת עצמו בזה, אז לא יעורר כוח האין שבנפש להשכיל על דבר, רק chitzoniyus כוח שכלו המלובש במוח, ולכן לא ישכיל האמס. But if his intention is to feel himself through it, he will not awaken the soul's power of ayin to comprehend, but only the external faculty of intellect, okay, vested in the brain, and therefore he will not grasp the truth. Okay? Right? And the same applies to oneg. She'ein oneg amiti ela kishe'atzmius nafsho mitaneg. Right? That it's not a true delight unless the essence of a soul itself delights. That's it. Shehu inyan gilui Pnimiyus ha-oneg shebenefesh v'lo kasher ha-oneg hu chitzoniyus. Right? Meaning a true delight is when the essence reveals itself. Okay, the revelation of the inner delight within the soul, and not when the delight is external. Okay, now we need to also understand what is internal essence and what is external essence. But the internal oneg opens up only when the subject matter is very important for a person. That's why we see that very much in a relationship, right? A person, like, you're not going to hang out with people who don't appreciate you. Why is it? Because you're not going to experience joy, right? Both of the people are not going to experience joy, right? Both of the people involved, two friends, husband and wife, whatever that may be, they are going to experience joy in a relationship only when they are important in each other's eyes. Okay? So we see that the oneg opens up when we care. We're not going to experience oneg, we're going to shut down if I suspect that another person doesn't care about me. Well, I could still interact respectfully with that person. Okay, but the joy of the actual interaction opens up only when I feel safe that I am treasured by that other individual. And they will feel safe when they know that they are treasured to me. That's why building trust, right, is the key component in any interaction, right? And that comes because I see chashibus, importance, and care in that particular individual. Otherwise, it's not going to open. Okay? Like, it's just not going to happen. Okay, that is going to be external. Could go, and there's always going to be that self-consciousness. We're not going to be able to melt in the experience. There's always going to be that wall between us, that wall of safety between us. So, nobody's going to get hurt, type of thing, right? So that meaning we could have fun, but it's going to be very measured. It's, there's going to be a boundary there. Okay. right? כששורש בעונג, אשר נמשכה היספלוס הזויס מפנימיוס, ha-oneg, אז היספלוס זויס אמיתיס היא. ולא כאשר נמשכה מחיצונiyus awaken. Like now we're going to be speaking with hispaalus. Now we're coming down, from oneg into the hispaalus. What's the difference between oneg and hispaalus? Oneg is an abstract concept. Hispaalus is when we actually feel the oneg. Okay, and likewise with emotional arousal, hispaalus in the heart, whose root is oneg, when the arousal comes from the inner delight, from the inner oneg, it is jnana. But when it comes from the external aspect of delight, it is not. Okay, so now we have more clarity. Okay, that's it. We did it. I was worried that we're not going to make it. It's quite a large, and it really touches a very, very important clarification that we need to do in order to understand how everything else works. So if you have any questions, please ask them now. And if not, then we'll just end the class. B'ezrat Hashem, I prepared for you a few slides that I want to share with you that will help you just to remember what's where. Okay.
I don't have any questions. I asked mine earlier, but thank you so much. I feel like you touch on so many different things and how you put them together. It's very, very helpful. And I feel like it's deep learning. It's like you're not telling us
It's
stories.
definitely a deep learning. What?
Yeah. Like you don't tell us stories, but it's a whole story. Like we're entering the story. Like it's good.
Yeah. I'll tell you what it is. It's a preface. We are still in an aspect of preface. I see Gabriella asked the question, right? Gabriella, you wanna voice it? It says, okay, how does external trust differs than internal? There is no external trust. Trust is internal. If we don't trust, we could have an external oneg with the person. I don't know, we could go drink a cup of coffee or interact in a fun way. We can enjoy each other's jokes, whatever else is. But if you do not feel the person really appreciates you, you're not going to experience a true secure attachment to that person. That's just how the psyche works. Now, let's put it this way. We as human beings are very, very complicated. We know how to fool ourselves, and we know how to push ourselves and make up all kinds of things and force ourselves for the particular outcome, right? We are multi-layered beings. Okay, and we could, in a certain way, I don't like to use that word, but betray ourselves, okay, for the sake of our seeming relationship or whatever else it could be. We're going to force ourselves because we will locked in it, right? But if we are true to ourselves, okay, we see that there's something wrong in that. A person doesn't see value in us. Why would you continue that relationship? Right? If we are talking about relationship, right? So there's no internal, external trust. The trust is internal by definition. I either trust or I don't trust. I don't have trust. Okay, if I don't trust, then I put boundaries. For some people, yeah, I'll put 10 boundaries. For certain people, I will put 5 boundaries. And based on my experience moving forward, maybe I will remove slowly the boundaries. Okay, that's what, a healthy thing, a healthy way to do. However, we do meet certain people who touch very deeply the essence of our soul, where the boundaries just melt and the trust is being formed there because we call them like soulmates. Soulmates also not only on the level of husband and wife, but also it's like there's a word for it. It's like an old soul, right? Like somebody who you've known, although it's a new person, but energetically you are compatible. So therefore, the exchange is not so complicated. Because let's truly understand or try to understand, right? We're not simple beings. We are capable of interacting above time and above space. We feel each other on a very different level. It comes down through our consciousness, but we know about each other way beyond our physical mind. Okay. If anybody has questions, please ask them. If not, we'll end for now. And B'ezrat Hashem, in the groups, I will share the additional resources that I will be producing as we move along.
Toda rabah, Shavua Tov. Thank you.
Okay. Don't boundaries create trust? Is it reflective of the other person's connections to Hashem? Yes, it's true. Isn't it always checking our connection to Hashem every day with prayer can be different? Yeah, Gabriela, you're asking for another class. B'ezrat Hashem, yeah. B'ezrat Hashem, well, it's not an easy what you're asking. I really would want to understand more deeply what your questions are. Because we are touching relationships in general, and there are many layers of how we interact with people. And I really would want to know a little bit deeper as to who you refer to. Is that a friend? Is that a parent, a sister, brother? Like where? Because each of the layers is a different, is a whole different paradigm on its own. So it's not simple. Like, I don't want to just, brush you off. I'm not brushing you off. It's just much more than what it is. Okay. Love you all. It's 1:50. And B'ezrat Hashem, we should continue with our classes next Wednesday, same time. And B'ezrat Hashem, I'll post the summary for this workshop. Thank you very much for joining me.